This story begins in a place where a passenger bus travels. There are many passengers on this bus, a mother holding a child and others like tourists. A woman took a picture out of a window while the other person next to her drew on a whiteboard. The woman next door saw it and took a picture. The driver of the bus seemed to be driving poorly, almost colliding with the same vehicle. The curved road came and the bus lost its balance and it turned sideways. People were frightened and they started to go out, but the bus was about to fall into the cliff. People hurried out and others passed through the window of the bus to get out. The bus crashed into the cliff and it rolled the wheel. People were saved. They went to the bus to pick up their belongings and then tried to call for help, but the phones were not signaled. When they were stranded in the area, people blamed who had plotted the tragedy that had happened. The people around them also welcomed them. They started walking down a rough road, carrying their belongings. As they walked, they saw a beautiful woman, so beautiful and the flower was pure. The others were very happy and ran to the shore. Some have dressed and gone to the sea, while others have gone to a hut and drank wine. They offered a young woman to drink a glass of wine. The girl refused and she drank the wine. Those who enjoyed it were very happy. A man stood up and spoke to a woman in another language. They seemed to have a good conversation. A woman was in a room, lying down watching television. A man came through the door and offered him a job. The man put it up and they left. In the evening, there is a dance and fun. Men and women are dancing and drinking. A woman attracted the man saw it and approached him. The girl looked at the two of them and the children saw the two of them kissing. She took her to a private place where they were alone and had sex. Then the woman left and went back to the dance. The next morning they were lying on the beach, a woman lying on the beach. It woke up because it was hit by a wave. A man calmed down. A man and a woman were bound to a bamboo tree and the native men carried it. They took it down to the riverbank and the men sat down to rest. The man and woman woke up. The man helped the woman escape, loosened the rope and the woman escaped. The men's companions saw it. The man with the mob approached him, cut off the fingers of the man who was bound until he died. They chased the woman who had escaped. She ran so fast and did not look at what she was going through, that she fell into a cliff and died. The man who had been chasing him saw him, and he was sure that he was dead and left. The tourists returned to the cliffs and asked the natives if they had seen any other companions. The natives said they saw nothing. While they were looking for their companions, a group of children approached them. A man chased it, the boy named it, the children ran down the narrow road. While running, the man picked up a stone and threw a stone at the boy, hit the boy on the head and cried. People saw and heard it and blamed the tourists. The people were in a mess and they wanted to get rid of it. A man took the crowd and invited the tourists to leave. The man pointed to the road to Hangang as they reached the rough road. The tourists were so tired of walking that they just rested on a rock and sat there. The man saw the ravens eating. It was the body parts of the tourists' companions. A group of men gathered. A man speaks. It is the boss of the group. It was eating while talking. A guy came and their boss stabbed it in the eye with the stick. The guy's eye bleed and it collapsed. The boss pressed the stick until it died. The tourists have reached a fall. They were so happy because of the beauty of these falls. One man jumped into the falls and the other followed. They dived under the water and reached a tunnel. This tunnel was very rough and they continued. They were going deeper and deeper and the tunnels were also sucking until they reached a cave. They dived into it and swam underneath. The beauty of this cave. They looked up and saw two of their friends were kissing. They jumped back into the falls and were surprised by all the climbs that brought them to the falls were bloodied. They went up and took the man to an abandoned reef. They were looking for first aid but only scissors and alcohol they found. The man saw a stapler and they used it to sew the man's head. They saw the wound on the man's head and they put a stapler on it to close. The man stood up and bleeded it. He went to a room and laid down on the bed and rested. A man was walking around the house and saw a drawer and opened it. He saw two passports, one with a picture of a man and the other with a woman. He heard a noise and left. At night they sat down at a table and talked. While they were sleeping and a helicopter came by and parked in the house, they looked at it and the man came up and brought it home, as if it were the owner of the house. The man explained the drivers. The owner of the house was angry and asked the man to leave. The tourist surprised that he suddenly left. The owner of the house pulled the tourist woman's hair and their fellow man saw her and defended her, but the man stabbed her in the back and fell to the floor. The woman wakes up and she's already laying there with her mouth tied. Her back is covered with a back and a man comes up and cuts her back. She screams in pain. While some of the other companions were trapped outside and with a dog in the cage, they were cold because it was raining heavily outside. The woman had surgery. The man cut off her tie-in and gradually removed the insides. The woman was turned into a disease. He has a friend who is a tourist, tied tightly and sees what his female companion is doing. A friend of mine was trying to escape. He stood up and tried to loosen the bond with her. He was able to keep his composure, and he continued to be a disappointment to his fellow man. Some people are looking for a way to escape the prison. It also helps to help other people to get rid of their problems. The man continued to take the woman's inside. She took the woman's body while the other man was terrified. The surgery was over and the boss came out. He saw his man having sex. He was angry and told his men to check the balances outside. The man did it and he went out and opened the jail and the tourist looked for a typhoon and kicked the guard until he fell and their companions saw him and pointed a gun at him but stabbed him in the back of the man who took them to the falls. He stabbed her to death. The man took the key from the man's pants and released the other tourists. The woman gave the man a shot, but before he could do so, he kissed the man on the lips, crying out of fear. The woman continued to push until she fell asleep. The other tourists were working together. They opened the iron door and their companion came out. A tourist grabbed a gun, he took it and they went to the house to save their two companions. When they entered, the woman pointed a gun. She was afraid and she retreated. The boss went out to look at the tourists but noticed that they were no longer there. He just saw his man lying in the dungeon and dead. The other two men ran away to escape, but the boss chased them and shot them. The two tourists entered. They saw the remains of their sister. They rescued a male companion. They passed through the window. The robbers on CCTV saw the fleeing tourists because they alerted their other companions. They exchanged gunfire. While a tourist hid in the lawn was full of ants. It bit the tourist's hand. It had to not move or make noise because only one of the leader's men was in front of him. The two men hid under and looked for a typhoon, stabbing their opponent in the foot. It cried out in pain. As they were running away, the tourist's companion was shot. He fell and lost consciousness and another tourist was shot because he was brave. The morning came and a woman was hiding in a rocky place. He nodded and as he did so, he heard something approaching so he hid and took a piece of stone. When she was about to hit the man on the foot, she didn't know it was her partner so she lined up and when the babe saw her friend's face she hugged him. She cried as the woman hugged her. They got up to leave there. They hide underwater because they see that the boss staff and he is looking for them. They dived under the water and went to the cave that was under the water. The woman was surprised and the man calmed down. As they continued to dive, the boss saw them and shot them, hit one colleague in the hand and he bleeded while the other hit him in the head and died, his body slowly sinking under the water. Other tourists returned where they came from. They did not know where they were going. They were running out of breath and the boss was chasing them under the water. They were quickly moving away, but the boss couldn't catch them. As the water rose, they continued swimming. The woman let go of her flashlight, tried to take it but it quickly sank down. The man then grabbed the man's arm, grabbed the woman's arm and grabbed the man's arm. He stabbed her in the neck until she died and the body sank under the water. They went up and hid behind the big rocks. The man was still looking for them. He fired a gun and the woman shouted. The man hit the boss and fell. The man hit it with a large stone. A man pointed a gun at them. Their boss told them to kill the tourists. The tourists were compassionate and his boss's men shot his boss. His boss died. The rest of the tourists returned to the town. They saw a child. They ran and the people in the town helped them. They healed their wounds, fed them and drank them. A plane landed at an airport. The rest of the tourists boarded there and they consciously returned to their home country. This is where the story ends. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please consider subscribing, giving it a thumbs up, and turning on notifications for more updates. Your support means a lot.